So thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Members of the committee, my name is Nicholas Oliver, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Partnership for Home Care. I'm joined with two of my member providers, Dana CRUZ, who is the Rhode Island Area Director of BAYADA Home Health Care, and Vincent Ward, who is the CEO Administrator of Home Care Services of Rhode Island. My organization represents home care, home nursing care, and hospice providers licensed by the Rhode Island Department of Health to provide health care services in the home. I'm reluctant to be in the position of being in opposition to House Bill 5074. This bill would result in a nearly 12.25% increase over the newly enacted minimum wage increase that just happened 4 weeks ago. While it's not the partnership's intent to oppose any minimum wage increase itself, home health care and hospice providers are in the unfortunate position of not having an adequate Medicaid fee-for-service rate increase since 2002. What our intention is to establish financial stability for home health care providers participating in the state's Medicaid program and ensure access to quality home health care services for Medicaid beneficiaries. Medicaid home and community-based service rates have been frozen for the past 7 consecutive fiscal years. However, much of that last rate increase in 2008 was rescinded the following fiscal year due to state budget constraints. So we're really talking about 13 years since a rate increase by our rate-setting body, you, the members of the General Assembly. Since 2002, the minimum wage has increased 6 times, and this bill proposes a 7th. At that time, the minimum wage was $6.15 an hour. While the wage has increased over 46.33%, Medicaid home care service rates were left behind. It would be disrespectful for me to ask you, the members of this committee, if you're still affordably living on the wages that you earned in 2002, but that is just what you, the members of the General Assembly, are requiring Medicaid home health care providers and their staff to do. Many of our direct care staff, CNAs and homemakers, are earning wages at or slightly above the current minimum wage. At current reimbursement rates, we cannot afford to provide them a wage that is adequate, let alone competitive to their counterparts in nursing homes and hospitals that have received increases by this General Assembly almost every year. Why would someone work at minimum wage in a position that requires licensing by the Department of Health, continuing education to maintain that licensure, and perform services and tasks that include toileting, bathing, and feeding patients at the same wage as someone who works in retail or hospitality? Actually, the job market is already responding to that with a resounding no, as many of our provider agencies are having difficulty hiring and maintaining direct care staff to fill the growing need of these services by Medicaid beneficiaries, especially those that live outside of the Providence, Warwick area communities, such as Woonsocket, South County, Block, and Aquidneck Islands. The Rhode Island Partnership for Home Care believes that all home health care workers should have wages and benefits competitive of their peers throughout the health care sector. In addition, we believe that they should have the same access to quality health care as they provide every day in each Rhode Island community. None of this is plausible, though, under the current Medicaid fee-for-service reimbursement rates for home health care services. If the minimum wage increase is not then tied to a fee-for-service rate increase at minimum to an equal percentage, access to quality health care services in the home will diminish in Rhode Island, and an increase in unemployed direct care workers will result, which is counter to both our state's efforts to rebalance our long-term health care system and our efforts to grow and maintain middle-class jobs, such as those providing direct home health care, many of whom are women, minorities, and single parents. Please do not pass this bill without first increasing Medicaid fee-for-service rates to the same percentage as those proposed for this minimum wage increase. Because of this, we respectfully request that this bill have a fiscal note attached to it and propose that the bill be transferred to the House Finance Committee. I'll pause here at this time in the case that you have any questions. I know both of my providers here with me would like to also address this committee. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Hearing none, may proceed. And excuse me, you are Dana?
Dana, yes.
Dana. Thank you, Dana. Please proceed.
Hi. I'm actually here on behalf of the 225 of your your patients that we service for you, and approximately 300 employees. I'm their voice, and I'm not as articulate, I apologize, as the big guy next to me. But I think
Excuse
that
me,
it's...
Danny, did you say 225 patients?
Yes.
So there's more than 225 patients, I would assume.
I service
Oh, I'm sorry,
my
you personally.
organization.
All right,
yes,
thank you.
not personally. That'd be tough, but I think the important thing to know is that we don't make widgets and we can't turn a light off. I can't create somebody to give somebody a bath. We're always going to be in this business. There's always going to be a need, and my families and my employees absolutely want the best of the best. I don't know how many of you have had the experience of needing home care. Nobody wants home care. Nobody wants to have to call us. But we have to come out and help the people who end up in situations that they can't bathe themselves or feed themselves. And it's imperative that you think about the fact that we can pay a little bit more than what minimum wage is right now. We're already unattractive to people because there's so many things tied into it. We just passed a law I'm not sure it was a law, but they have to pay to get a national Corey check. Love the idea. They used to pay $5. Now they pay $35 if they want to come and work for a home care agency. They have to pay to update their license as an employee. These are things, costs involved that we talk about all the time. They have to drive from client to client so that our patients can stay in their home. These are your family members or will be your family members. At some point, the choice is to stay at home. And we just want to be able to continue to do that. If it becomes a point where I can see it now being more and more difficult to recruit we have tons of programs that we offer at BAYADA to make it appealing for people to work for us. Ultimately, it comes down to who's going to pay my rent, who's going to put gas in the car, and who's going to feed my kids. So becoming less and less attractive means a couple of really important things for you to think about. One of them is that as agencies start to close because they can't keep their doors open, and as agencies start to close because they can't find staff, and social workers are calling us on a day-to-day basis looking for help in areas, what's going to happen is we're going to re-hospitalize all of these clients. And that's exactly counterintuitive to what we're trying to do, is keep people home healthy and safe. So think about that, because you're going to have overflowing hospitals and shelters. Nobody's going to be able to take care of these clients. So on behalf of my clients and behalf of the employees who I see every day and sit with every day, and I know their struggles and I hear it and I wash away the tears and I literally hug everybody, I get it. Nobody wants to pay them as much as I do. I was the little girl. I had 2 handicapped parents. I was the little girl waiting for the CNAs to come in and take care of my parents and to help me. So I have a true passion for what I do and for the people that I service. So I just would like you to hear that, and the consequence that if we do raise that minimum wage without making it equitable on the other side with reimbursement and fee-for-service, you're going to force a situation where there's a lot of unemployment and a lot of hospitalizations. Thank you. Sorry if I bored you.
No, not at all. Dana, I've had loved ones who've needed home health care, and I certainly believe that it's a calling. Mm-hmm. It's a unique thing that not everyone can do, and the people that service the people that are in those situations are angels. There's no other way to phrase it. Quick question.
Sure.
What is the average hourly salary for one of the individuals that you employ?
$11 per hour.
$11. So you're basically a few dollars above the...
Correct.
And your point is that if we increase it, then you're just going to...
Yeah. It becomes easier to work at Walmart or in some other retail. Why would you come and give your heart? I mean, you've experienced it. You've seen what goes into the care of a client. Why would you put yourself through that for that many hours a week when you can just check in, check out, check in, check out?
I agree. Any questions from the committee? Representative Casey.
Thank you. So the bottom line of what you're saying is that it's an issue with reimbursement rates, really, that need to be increased in order for you to give your employees a raise to keep them, rather than have them work for a hospital or some other agency or Walmart or whatever the...
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really there's been no increase, so we can't monetarily recognize our staff. I mean, our last increase was 2002 with a slight increase in 2008, which was retracted. So we've had no flexibility. It is what it is, and we try to come around with different, opportunities to recognize them, but ultimately.
Do you have figures you could forward to the committee regarding reimbursement rates in the past?
Sure. We can provide that to you. Just to let you know, the Executive Office of Health and Human Services traditionally provides this information to the House and also the Senate on an annual basis. Last year, that was March 12th. So I assume with the new governor and with her budget proposal coming out later this session, I assume this body will have EOHHSN to provide and fact check our data by, I would assume, by April. But we can provide you the data that we have to date. Some of that is in my testimony.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for the witnesses? Thank you very much. Did you testify, sir?
No, not yet.
Please go ahead.
My name is Vinnie Ward. I own Home Care Services of Rhode Island up in Woonsocket. And like Nicholas was saying, I have a little bit of a more unique problem as anyone that lives on the outskirts or bordering communities to another state have. Where Dana is in Providence, there's a bigger area to pick from or choose from. I run into a problem where I can't go into Massachusetts and provide care, and at the same time, the people that are CNAs in Massachusetts are not going to come down to Woonsocket to work because the reimbursement rate and the pay rate in Massachusetts is already higher. Their average rate is about $24 an hour in reimbursement, where we don't have any rate that matches $24 an hour, not even really close to it. The average is probably closer to $18 to $20 an hour. So I can't compete. I can't get people from Massachusetts to cross the border. I don't get people from Providence. They're driving to work to northern Rhode Island, and they don't get reimbursed for their mileage because Medicaid doesn't pay for mileage. So where I'm looking to find my employees is directly in the Woonsocket, Burrillville, Lincoln, Cumberland, North Smithfield area, and then I have to compete with nursing homes who have routinely gotten increases in their reimbursement rates. So what used to be parity back in the early 2000s, up until about the 2008 period, they've received about 4 or 5 rate increases. We've received none. So now CNAs that work in nursing homes are able to be reimbursed at a higher rate. So every time one of the nursing homes hires, I lose someone.
You lose your trained people, your experienced people.
So, and matter of fact, I can tell you there was a gentleman from Homefront that used to come in and testify, and one of the things that he used to mention is whenever he had an office in Harmony, whenever Zambrano would hire through being the state of Rhode Island, he'd have people gone. They'd be gone because the pay rate was higher.
And they probably have a better benefit package, too.
Absolutely. So I'm left to compete trying to take care of your patients. I never look at them as mine. I'm a contractor with the state. You guys represent the state. So I'm looking at it as it's your patients that are getting less and less care. We constantly have to call the patients and say, I'm sorry, this one called out. Well, is there someone else that can come here? No, there isn't. There isn't because people don't want to go into this field right now when there's already competition at $10 an hour. Now, I don't even pay. My base pay is $11 an hour. So I'm still higher than minimum wage. But at what point is someone that has to go provide personal care to a patient? Some of these places they go into are filthy. They try and clean them up, but the people are just not going to keep it clean. They're doing personal care. They're doing homemaking. They're doing grocery shopping. They're going out and taking care of these people at $11 an hour, and they're paying for their own gas. I guess the governor can say they're giving them a raise this year because the price of gas came down. But they're having to pay this much to get $11 an hour when they could be next year, if 1010 goes through, they can be at Walgreens across the street from my office saying, thank you for coming to Walgreens, and get 1010 an hour. It is going to make it extraordinarily difficult for us to take care of the patients in the state of Rhode Island. especially in the outskirts, the outlying areas that border with other states. Both states around us pay more, and that puts me in a disadvantage up in Woonsocket, and it's really harmful to what we're trying to do and provide these services. I've been fighting with the state for years. Just to give you one example, we have patients that they turn 21 years old because we do skilled nursing for pediatric patients. They turn 21. If they were in neighborhood health plan, our reimbursement rate for an RN was $52 an hour. They have to switch over to BHDDH, Buddha, in that program, and that program since 2002 has been $31 an hour. So my reimbursement rate goes down $20 an hour. When that happens, what can I pay the nurse? If I'm only getting 31, what can I pay the nurse? If I pay them 25, I make zero. So it's getting more and more difficult to do business in the state of Rhode Island. And a minimum wage increase without something that's directly tied to what we do is going to have a major impact on our future. You know, one of the things the state EOHHS has always said, well, you've never gone out of business. You keep threatening that you're going to have to go out of business if you don't get this rate increase, and it never happens. Well, it is happening. 3 agencies closed last year. Other agencies have closed in the previous years before that. And it's just going to continue, and it's going to continue because we are not getting reimbursed the proper amount to get the proper employees in to take care of your patients. So, and I think the other thing is when they ask about what happens with the reimbursement rate, what happens is the employees are still getting paid the same wages. But I have, for example, a $5,000 increase in my workers' comp this year. Why? Because the state, on one hand, the DBR is telling Beacon Mutual it's okay to give us a 15% rate increase for people in my type of work, but the EOHHS is saying, I'm sorry, we can't afford to give you any more money. We don't have any money to give you.
I hear you loudly and clearly. I sympathize with your reimbursement rates. It's unfortunately a common problem with many of the same providers in the same kind of field you're in. But this bill is limited to the minimum wage. So I hear you saying as we raise the minimum wage, it has a ripple effect going down the state, and I appreciate it. What I'd ask you, I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions for you, but what I'd ask you to do is provide some written to the chair so we get, I rejoined the meeting a little bit late, so I don't know if you submitted it earlier, but if you did, thank you. If you didn't, please do it post-hearing.